facelesscomedy.cjb.net.
Good evening, and welcome to Have I Got News For You, taking a look at the last 7 days, the last 7 pulsating, vital days of world news. As Iraq runs short of medical supplies, patients waiting for pacemakers are forced to improvise. But Saddam Hussein remains calm and even finds time for his regular Thursday night toga party. More drama in Britain, where the Rochdale social workers' inquiry spreads further south. Over the next half hour, we're going to be looking at the stories and pictures that make up the rest of the week's news as we tax the knowledge of our 4 guests, and I use the word very much in its Iraqi sense. This week, 2 teams of witty and politically astute celebrities couldn't make it, so we've got this lot here instead. We have 2 regular team captains. On my right, the man responsible for turning Private Eye into a respectable organ of the press, although which organ I'm not at liberty to say, Ian Hislop, and he's joined by comedian Sandi Toksvig. And to my left, the other team captain, the man they call Mr. Comedy. Sorry, Mr. Merton, Paul Merton, and he's joined by Sunday Times journalist and Booker Prize judge, someone who once described Ian Hislop as sexier than Richard Gere, Kate Saunders. But let's launch headlong into round 1. We're going to show you some bits of footage featuring people who've made the news this week. Ian and Sandy, you're first. Who are these 3 gentlemen, and what did they succeed in failing to do this week?
They're obviously arriving for the 40th anniversary celebration of Noddy's birthday. They've got one of Enid Blyton's sexy novels that they failed to... No, that's not true at all.
No, they're nothing that frivolous. These are 3 members of the Labour Party.
Yes. You can tell that by them wearing ill-fitting suits.
They've gone out to Baghdad to see President Hussein.
Yes.
Thus getting the name the Desert Rats.
And they failed to stay there.
They failed even to see him.
Yes, they failed on virtually every count. Yes.
You can see him on television. I don't know why they went all the way there.
Yeah, astonishingly right. 2 full points. But before they left, I mean, we had a slight feeling that they weren't going to get anywhere because Ron Campbell, one of them, was quoted as saying of Saddam Hussein, he's a Christian, we're all Christians, if he's a good man and a Christian, he will see us. And of course he isn't, which is probably why he didn't. So Ron Finger on the Pulse Campbell, they call him. Paul and Kate, here's your first clip. Who's this and why is he the black sheep of the family?
Oh.
God, no idea.
This is one of the Osmond brothers. Admitted in public that he's tone deaf. And wanting to know why he wasn't in the Osmonds.
Excellent. That's completely wrong. Do you want to have a go?
I think it's old, what's his name, Nikolai thing.
It's Ceausescu's son.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's not Nikolai, but Nikul.
Oh. Nikul.
Yeah,
Nikolai to his friends sometimes, but Nikul if you know him terribly well.
And why was he in the news?
Well, he's a bit of a rotter, really, isn't he?
Well, I don't know if he is.
I'm not sure I can compete with that sort of on-the-spot knowledge.
Well, he's a bit of a rotter. He got 20 years for murder, but he was acquitted of genocide. So compared with his mum and dad, he's really quite a nice guy.
Yeah. Hence the sunglasses, presumably.
Yes, you worked that one out, Ian. Ian and
his father was known
Sandy.
as Dracula, which may help.
I don't think it helps you. You certainly don't get any points for it. Ian and Sandy, no points for guessing who this is, but what is she up to?
No points for guessing who it is.
No, it's Oprah Winfrey.
She's hugging a woman with a hearing condition.
No, that's a small child with a lead pipe.
Yeah.
of the type that's so useful in the crossroads.
And she's wearing a very large hat with waving feathers. Now, what is that? What do you want to know?
Well, you've got who it is, I suppose. That's not bad. Why
This
is she in the
is,
news?
Mrs. Winnie Mandela.
And she's on trial for not being very kind to teenagers.
That'll do, I think.
Hence
So.
starting the new campaign, Free Winnie Mandela.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't throw away your Free Mandela T-shirts yet. Finally, in this round, Paul and Kate, who's this vision of loveliness?
New Archbishop of Canterbury hits back at his critics. It was George Foreman.
It is.
No, it's not actually. It's Patrick Stewart from Star Trek: The Second Generation. And he's been in the sun.
To boldly go.
Now, this is the Mandela boxing team, isn't it?
George Foreman was closer, really, insofar as it was right.
Yeah.
Perhaps you'd like to tell us why he was in the news?
He fought somebody over the course of one round and knocked them out, and his next opponent's going to be Thora Hird, apparently.
That brings us to the end of round one, at the end of which Ian and Sandy have soared into a lead of 5, and Paul and Kate have a mere 2.
Oh, dear.
Well, time now, by way of an aside, for our caption competition. Paul and Kate, I'd like you to look at this. And Ian and Sandy have a look at this. And if by the end of the programme you can come up with a witty, scabrous and irreverent caption, we'll all be amazed. And while you're doing that, we're going to ask you to stop doing that and concentrate instead on 4 rather silly headlines from this week's tabloids. One each for you to identify. Paul, what's this all about? Jimmy Hill put us off our dinner.
Now that the BBC doesn't cover Football League matches, Jimmy Hill has to supplement his income by doing a cabaret sex act with a pony. I can't really go into exactly what he'd do. They're billed as Jimmy Hill and Toby the Very Thirsty Pony. So.
Well, it's not what I've got down here. Just as well, I should think.
He was booked. Somebody was booked to be an after-dinner speaker, and they didn't turn up. And Jimmy Hill came in as a late replacement, and he didn't.
I prefer the first version.
The first version was funnier.
I think I'd run it.
But the second was more correct. Kate, a marital headline for you. With this pistol, I thee nick.
Could I offer you my body in exchange for a clue? Is it worth that much?
Could do, yes. I'm not sure I'm at liberty to actually accept at the moment, but you're stumped, aren't you?
Yes, I'm absolutely stumped.
Okay.
I write for a big newspaper.
I realise that. It's huge.
It's got little writing in it.
Exchange and Mart. This is the American detectives who went undercover. The woman police officer went undercover for about 6 months, was getting married to this guy, and all these guests were there. And suddenly half the guests revealed that they were undercover policemen, and the other half, who were drug dealers, revealed they were also undercover policemen. And there was nobody left to arrest, so they booked the they arrested the organist on grounds of ugliness.
Must be the only wedding in history where the bride gave away the father. Sandy, your rather curious headline is this.
Yes?
No on-board chainsaws, please.
Well, this is to do with the tanks going out to Saudi Arabia. Apparently they're crap, some of these tanks, and so they've got, they were going to have chainsaws in case the chaps couldn't get out. No, it's not true at all.
It's not true.
No,
it's
in fact...
enthralling to listen to.
This is the Howard's Way question.
OK, go on in.
You're not allowed chainsaws on board ships in Howard's Way, because it would make the plot interesting.
You're not allowed chainsaws on airlines. It's actually illegal to take a chainsaw on an airline because apparently chainsaws in people's personal luggage has been causing fires.
Absolutely right, that's incredible.
There you are.
2 full points there. It's a revelation by the Civil Aviation Authority that one of the chief causes of fires on planes is that old problem of having chainsaws in your hand. Anyway, Ian, your headline reads like this. The Great Plague of 1990.
Gaza. No, this is Jeremy Beadle. No.
Good. Well, I'll give you a point for amusement anyway, but the actual answer is that crime is up 17% in the second quarter of 1990. Not very interesting, is it, really?
Well, it's interesting, because Mrs Thatcher says it's our fault.
It is, yes, absolutely right.
Apparently it's up 26% in Milton Keynes, which I think says something.
Yeah,
the message is, don't get burgled. Stupid people.
Yes, it's absolutely right. Mrs Thatcher has put the blame on victims who don't take proper precautions. She doesn't understand, or at least she doesn't understand, why everyone doesn't have a policeman standing outside their front door like she does. So at the end of that round, the score, Ian and Sandy still in the lead with 8, but Paul and Kate are fighting back with 5. Which we're going to be calling round 3. Money well spent having 16 researchers on this show. This time we're going to be a little bit more cryptic. Each team gets a montage of visual clues which relate to a major story of the week. But which one? Ian and Sandy.
That's Sir Anthony Mayer.
He's checking what time he's got to meet his girlfriend, and that's her. And they go Dutch, or every time they go out anywhere.
Good.
And he used to be the chief whip.
Well, you're not a million miles away from the truth, I must say.
This is Sir Anthony Mayer, who's actually a terrific man.
And would have made a wonderful Prime Minister.
Would have made a great Prime Minister, but happened to be having a bit of trouble on the side, being beaten up by aggressive women. Mrs Thatcher, who beat him off when he was a stalking horse, which is the horse.
The horse, good.
Oh, he's very
Horse.
good.
Yeah,
And
What was the water?
What was the water there?
Well, the water you said,
He's
you were saying
washed up.
going Dutch was not
Yes.
far off.
But he used to have nookie in Holland. What?
Well, if you go via the spanking, you might get it.
I
what
do
did the
usually.
Spanking, that small town outside Amsterdam.
I'll give you 1 point for
Diane
that.
Washington. That's not in Holland, is it?
No,
that was her
and
name?
it wasn't Diane Washington anyway, it was Simone Washington, so apologies to Diane Washington if she's...
Another apology.
Please don't send us any Brits. Send them to Ian. He did in fact, he sent her to a special spanking school in Amsterdam to learn how to do it, this is true. Must be one...
And you can get the address later.
It's one of the few schools where you're sent to the headmaster's study and beaten, but only if you're very, very good. Paul and Kate, here's your bizarre juxtaposition of images.
Yes. Terry Wogan, the thinking man's cheeseburger. George Best. That's the sort of thing that George Best sees when he's drunk. Monster Raven, yes, the Monster Raven Looney Party want George Best to be their Minister for Culture.
You said it in one, yes, absolutely right, as a result of the Wogan debacle.
Slight inebriation on him in the programme.
Yes, Best was invited to join the Monster Raving Looney Party, and a spokesman for George said on his behalf, now it's time for our mini headlines round. These are the obscure little subtitles that break up big tabloid stories just as they're getting interesting. We'll show each team a set of mini headlines from a particular story. They either have to identify the right story or concoct a better one. You'll soon get the hang of it as the hours drag by. Paul Merton and Kate Saunders, explain these, if you will. Helpless?
Yes.
Helpless.
Struggle. Glamour. Explosive.
It's Joan Collins, obviously.
Yes.
Opening in Private Lives.
Yes.
The operative word, of course, is struggle.
Yes.
Because she was still trying to get out of the paper bag. Not being over-gifted in the acting department.
She relied on glamour, then her knickers exploded.
It's actually nothing to do with Joan Collins, so I very much enjoyed listening to it.
Could we have a clue? Could we have a clue?
Yes, I'll give you a clue.
Same terms as before.
Boldly going where no woman has been before, that's your clue.
Was Joan Collins? No,
I should be boldly going. It's Star Trek, isn't it?
It is,
it's Star Trek
Yes.
again. The new generation.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny about it, or what's interesting about it?
Nothing.
Apparently it's the first to feature interstellar sex. We're not sure who Stella is at the moment, but keep me posted. Gives a whole new meaning to the expression captain's log. Ian Hislop and Sandi
Or indeed,
Toksvig.
beam me up, Scotty.
Either of those.
Is that in your ear, Uhura?
Or are you just pleased to see me?
Ian and Sandy, here's an equally obscure set of mini headlines for you.
Virgin. That's obviously a story about Bonnie Langford.
That's Richard Branson, Virgin. Silence.
very good.
No, it isn't. No. Charm. No, it's not Richard Branson. Trust. No, it certainly isn't him.
Do you want a clue?
Oh, Go Mad.
It's okay. It's about a couple who aren't as close as they were.
Well, in that case, it must be old Ruda Lenska and Dennis Waterman.
No, it's even more glamorous than them.
Is it?
It's a very good guess, but it's
Dennis Waterman having
untrue.
no, all right.
No, it's an appalling slur on the royal family.
Yep.
Yet another one. This is a suggestion that Diana was a virgin. That's not the slur. That's absolutely true. Her father said so on television. Silence. They're very silent with each other, apparently.
Right.
Charm.
They're very charming with each other.
Very charming. And trust, they trust each other. And that's the sort of story we want to read about the royal family.
Silent virgins trusting each other in a charming way.
Okay, well, I'll give you 2 points for that. You're not far off. Yeah, their 10-year marriage is on the rocks. That's according to a new book by Andrew Morton. Part of the problem is that ever since Charles had bits of his hip grafted onto his elbow, he's been trying to get his arm over. Well, it's time for an update on the score. Yes, it's absolutely true. Well, it's almost getting exciting. Ian and Sandy have 11 points, and Paul and Kate now have 10. Now it's time for our archive round. We show each team a piece of film, but stop it at the vital moment. They have to tell us what happened next, and anyone who says question of sport gets sent out of the room. In the interests of political balance, we're going to be ridiculing the SDP Liberal Alliance twice. Ian, sorry. And Sandy, what happened next?
This is the list. That is the number. And all these sheets of paper have names. 8 foot of lists. 8 foot of lists of people waiting for treatment by the free, supposedly available health service.
Well, all the people in the audience died because they were on that list, I think. And he was quite dreary about the whole thing. And he was then shot by environmentalists for wasting so much paper.
Untrue, but funny. You can have a point for being funny.
As I remember it, which is very badly, I think he held up the list and there weren't any names on it.
Well, you're not far off.
Because it was a list of members of the SDP at the time.
Yeah. Well, let's see if you're right.
8 foot of lists of people waiting for treatment by the free, supposedly available health service.
But that wasn't strictly true. It was really a list of Alliance supporters.
What looks like names.
Yes.
Those are phony, are they?
They're not phony, but they're not the names of people on the waiting list because those names are confidential. They are names that are irrelevant to this debate.
I love it. These people are suffering and their names are irrelevant. That's
That's absolutely right, so 2 points to you. So, Kate and Paul, let's have a look at yours.
Mr. Chairman, Lord Kenyon, ladies and gentlemen, what is the salient fact of the political situation as it affects this country, as it affects...
This is a very famous bit of film. This is where Roy Jenkins' head exploded. And little tiny but perfectly formed pink flamingos flew out the back of his skull and circled the room and did a quick chorus of "Here, House of the Rising Sun."
Let's see what happens.
What is the salient fact of the political situation as it affects this country, as it affects Newcastle? And it seems to me that here the question of great importance is which is more likely.
And there's more.
Equally, Mr. Kinnock, I think he made a brave speech at Brighton. Bournemouth, was it?
Yes, Roy Jenkins there making George Best sound coherent. It's now time for the no expense spared part of the show, or no expense spent, more like, in which we present you with a selection of hand-picked designer objects that between them encapsulate a major news story of the week. Ian and Sandy, if you'd like to just have a look at these. We've got some oranges, some handcuffs, and a parrot.
Fun for the whole family.
Do with these what you will.
Well, we'll be back then.
Just like to go behind the screen.
This is Ken Dodd in Panto. No.
These are rather fine.
These are from another story.
Mrs. Thatcher makes the cabinet wear them during meetings. And these are...
Now this...
big.
Yes.
Big oranges. I think this is a story which we'd better be rather careful about. This is Polly Peck, the company, whose shares have had a bit of a nosedive and they've stopped trading temporarily. And the Serious Fraud Office have gone in to see Mr. Azil Nadir.
Good.
Nadir, it's a great name for a man whose career is at the bottom. And he, of course, is the man who runs...
Del Monte.
Del Monte. And he's the man from Del Monte who
said yes.
no comment.
Excellent, well done. 2 points to you. Paul and Kate, a tasteful selection for you. This is a sombrero, a severed arm, and some money. So, what story does this relate to?
Right, well, I mean, it looks as if it could be a reference to the last of the Guinness defendants, Sir Jack Lyons, because it's got a reference to, of course, backhanders.
Backhanders, good.
And money. And things. Where Mexico comes in, I'm not...
Is it Mexicans are selling their limbs for cash?
If they sell something we don't.
If they sell 2 arms, they get double the money, they just have difficulty counting it.
Well, you can have a point for entertaining us. I'll tell you what it is. It's the astonishing story of Francisco Marino, a drunken Mexican dishwasher who fell off a New York underground platform, lost his arm, and received $9 million compensation. So all the man from Del Monte had to do is to fall off a New York subway platform 18 times, and he would have recouped his losses.
What was he accustomed to do with the hand that was worth $9 million?
I don't think we want to get into that, Kate, really. But a man's private life here.
No one knows, apparently. At the end of that round, the score, Ian and Sandy had 16. They've pulled ahead, and Paul and Kate, sadly, have only 11. Next up is our odd one out round, in which we show each of you 4 celebrities, and I use the word in its loosest possible sense, and you have to find the odd one out. Paul, you're first. Cecil Parkinson? Michael Parkinson? Norman Parkinson? No. And Alan Bleasdale.
Every one of them but Cecil Parkinson has had a vasectomy. And Cecil Parkinson should have had a vasectomy, but didn't.
Absolutely. Kate, try these 4 for size. That's Chuck, Salvador Dali, Adolf, and Cheggers.
They've all slept with Maggie Philbin.
I can certainly have a point for that, but it's not the answer.
And I'd say the odd one out would be Keith Chegwin, the darling of the smart set, because all the others have got an overweening interest in architecture.
It's not architecture, but painting. So
paintings, yes. I mean, they've all dabbled, and Cheggers hasn't.
Sandy, this is your lot. This is Big Norm.
That's Dracula again.
Robert Kilroy Silk. The Reverend.
Lord Denny.
Or Orville, as he's known to his friends.
Well, I think Orville's the key to the whole thing, because all 4 are being worked by somebody.
Well, it's actually, I'll tell you, it's Ian Paisley, because he's the only one not to have his own TV show. Curious.
Well, I think that's a bit of an unforced state of affairs, don't you?
I'm sure it'll be rectified.
Fun with
soon.
Paisley.
It'll be on Sky next week.
Ian does interior decor.
I'm sure Ian Paisley's been on Sesame Street.
Good. Well, finally, Ian, here's your vile quartet. Michael Heseltine.
Tyne.
Giles.
Giles Brandreth. Oh, dear. And Benazir Bhutto. They're all writers except Geoffrey Archer.
As well as Geoffrey Archer, so I'll give you 1 point. All the others went to Oxford University, although, of course, Archer pretended to have been there, just like he pretended to be a novelist, and a politician, and a human being. Which means that the score is now, well, Ian and Sandy still have 17 in the lead, and Paul and Kate have 15. And so now to our cataclysmic finale, which is our missing words round. It's a quickfire round in which each team is shown the headlines of the week, but with a word or two missing. The teams have to identify the missing words or provide a better alternative. Right, well, Paul and Kate, you're currently last, or second, as we like to say on this show. So now's your chance to catch up with these headlines. 2 points for each one you get right. Let's get what, Joan tells Di?
The Duke of Edinburgh.
Well, it could have been, but it wasn't.
It was let's get drunk. High.
High,
Drunk,
is correct,
because Joni invited Di out for a wee bevy.
Well done, a full answer, but you're still only getting 2 points. Worst salesman's prize is a what?
Night out with Oliver Reed.
It's 2 tickets to Joan Collins in private night.
I'll give you a clue, it's a travelling salesman, so... could be...
A holiday in Kuwait.
No, you're not going to get this. Skoda is the right answer. And finally, £3,000 for a photo of Gazza's what?
Brain.
Now that's £3 million, because there's the finder's fee.
It's his mum.
It is his mum. Yes. Well done. That's
Right.
absolutely right. Well done, Paul. So let's see what Ian and Sandy can do. Lawson admits to 3 what?
Testicles.
Well, you had your go. Thank you, Paul.
Mistakes.
Good.
3 mistakes.
Mistakes. It is.
Gosh, he never was very good at figures, was he?
Hubby
Very
kicks
credible.
wife out of bed to kip with what?
Cliff Richard.
No, something likely.
Salman Rushdie.
Leaks is the actual answer.
Sorry, leaks was the next thing I was going to say.
And finally, the Queen can't say good morning without a...
Without a cheery smile and a good word for her people.
Well, bravo.
The one right hood.
You can have a point
script.
for patriotism, but nothing for accuracy. It was, in fact, script. Yes, did you say script,
Oh, this
Sandy?
was Tony Benn.
I think
God,
you did.
he can
so
talk, can't he?
We'll give you an extra point there. So at the end of this exhausting final round, the score is, astonishingly, Ian and Sandy with 25, Paul and Kate with just 21. So, congratulations to our winners. Just in case you thought we'd forgotten our caption competition, we haven't. There's a fabulous prize on offer. So, Paul, let's see what you two have come up with.
Torval and Dean announce new Christmas show.
Let's see what Ian and Sandy have come up with.
Well, I thought first it was something to do with BBC orchestra cuts, but I now think the caption probably is Mother Teresa lookalike winner sips traditional yard of ale.
No, I thought it was the Liberal Democrat Party conference again, and he's saying, go back to your constituencies and prepare for power.
Well, I think on the old laugh-ometer, Sandy probably gets it. So, Sandy, you win this delightful severed arm.
How terribly kind.
As a memento of the evening, although why you should want to actually remember this evening, I have no idea. In a moment, BBC Two follows its successful life of Vita Sackville-West with another drama of steamy female love starring Esther Ranson and Janet Street Porter. Good night.
If you enjoyed that stroll down memory lane, join us tomorrow at the same time when the boys' guests will be Jan Ravens and Martin Young. Next tonight, photographer Dennis Stone stalks a reluctant Melanie Griffith.